Hey, I'm Alex Radcliffe from Board Game Co. and today I'm reviewing Neotopia from Arcane Wonders. Or technically I should say from like Meebo Games, distributed by Arcane Wonders. But either way, Neotopia is a civ building game, I guess. A civ building game for 2 to 4 players. It's more of an abstract tile laying game where the tiles are these very nice chunky little pieces over here. These, by the way, are excellent. The component quality in these, they're beautiful pieces. It's not an upgraded pack, that's the game as is. But you're basically going to be putting these down onto the board in order to create various patterns to fulfill on these cards in order to score points in those respective regions. You're going to want to try to be evenly distributed as you play because your lowest region is going to score 3 times. Let's go ahead and walk you through the turn structure. On your turn, you're going to take 3 actions. The actions you take are really only 2 possible actions. You can take 3 actions, any combination of them. You'll either take a tile from a factory, these are the factories over here, and then put it into an adjacent region, touching the center tile if there is one, or starting a center tile if there isn't one, like so. Each player is going to go ahead and put down a tile into one of the regions, so in a 3-player game, all regions will be full. In a 2-player game, 2 of them will have a center tile, and in a 4-player game, you'll have another one over here, and then another one off to the side, putting from their color. Each player is going to have one dominant color that's their color. So action 1, again, taking a tile from a factory. These are the factories, putting it into an adjacent region, and if the factory is empty, you're going to go ahead and refill it using these tiles over here, and then revealing this to put down the next tiles on it. That's actually be at the bottom, that's the endgame tile, revealing it to show what tiles go on to the next one, which may not be as evenly distributed. So that's action 1. Action 2, on the other hand, is taking a card. So over here, you can go ahead, you can see these over here. You will start with some cards. I'll just take some cards myself over here, but you can go ahead and take any one of these cards as well in order to hopefully score that goal. For right now, I'll go ahead and just take 3 actions to show you how the game plays out. I'm going to go ahead, I'll start with taking this tile over here. I'm taking this card, adding it to my hand. I'm going to put this tile down here, and I'm going to put this tile down over here like so, and then I'll show, look, I have that done. That's a card. I have 3 points in that region. I'm going to go ahead and move my marker on purple. 1, 2, 3. Well, it should really be on 3. These should be off to the side for right now. I'm going to be on 3 points, and boom, that's my turn. At the end of your turn, this card row will be filled. That only happens at the end of your turn. Factories refill right away. Card row fills at the end of your turn, and that's basically that. 3 actions. Drew a card, took 2 tile placements, and that's my turn. The other player will go ahead and go. Maybe they'll go ahead and put one of these down over here to start that off, and then they'll move, this one over here. They're working towards a card, and then they'll go ahead and take this card to their hand, and that's their hand. I'll go ahead and refill. Back to my turn. I'm going to take a look, and this is where it's worth noting, you can never do, here's what something you can't do. I cannot put this here and then fill this card, showing that pattern here, because it's in the same region, and that's why you have these cards down here. These 2 cards have the same art, which means they use the same color material. You always have to break up a card with another card of a different art before you go back to that art, in order to prevent, stagnant, just having the same 2 colors in a zone. So what I will do is I'll take a look at the cards on the table over here. We do have this one over here. I'm going to take this one, add it to my hand, move this down over here like so. That's action 2. I'll reveal this as a free action, and I'll score 2 points. If I was a different player, I would score 4 points, but because this is my color, I only score 2 points. That's going to be relevant for something else about scoring we'll talk about soon. But that does go ahead and break that up, and I still have 1 more action. You know what? Let's go ahead and let's be crazy. I'm going to take this card over here and draw that to my hand, and then we'll refill this board over here. The other player will go. Maybe they go ahead and add, this one over here, and then this one over here, and then they go ahead and refill this display like so. We flip that over. We put 2 new ones like so over here onto this center factory. You're going to do that. Done. And then we're going to go ahead. We have 1 action left, and let's go ahead and take this card into their hand, which they'll try to score later. They'll try to put some more tiles out, whatever it is. I'm focusing more on my turn than theirs. We'll refill the display. I'll take 3 more actions, then we'll call it a day and show you, talk to you something about some other things. So I'm going to go ahead and place this out now over here, because now that I've broken it up, I can place this out, gaining 3 points. 1, 2, 3. Because I crossed this line, I get the top tile of this, which is a bonus tile. You get bonus tiles whenever you cross these lines on these spots, assuming there are any left. There'll be 4 in this stack. And whenever you touch one of these bonus tiles with a piece, you also get a bonus tile. This one lets me trade this in to draw 2 cards directly from the display. Past that, I have some more stuff I want to do. I'm going to go ahead and take one of these tiles over here, put it down over here, and then score this one in this region, and score 4 points because that's not my color. Notice that the other person's not scoring any points because I'm not really playing their turns as efficiently. That's the basic idea of the game. On your turn, you take 3 actions. The actions are either putting your tiles out, refilling the factory displays when necessary, or drawing cards, refilling those at the end of your turn. You're trying to fulfill all these various goals on these cards, trying to build these various patterns and structures, but you're doing so in shared regions. Everyone has access to all these regions. So especially if I see you take a card, well, that's gonna be a hard card to start. But if I see you take a card, maybe it's my best interest to go ahead and let's see what we have over here. If I see you take that and I have this, it's my best interest to so I put this here and put this here, because not only do I score, but I saw that you had this and I did not you that. And so there can be a degree of seeing what others do. That's more often and more present in a 2-player game. At 3 and 4, it's hard to keep track of everyone, and it's something a lot more energy to get in the way than necessary. But overall, you're trying to build these structures. You're going to move up your score tracks. You can flip over to the 20 side if necessary as you reset to the bottom over here. And at the end of the game, you're going to score for a few things. You're going to score points for every region based on where you're at. You're also going to triple the points of the region where you have the lowest score. You're also going to get points for your largest color in each region, and you do that before you go to the region scoring. So for here, I would go ahead and add 1, 2, 3 to this region because I have a section of 3 purple. And if I had these 2 purple over here, you only score your largest section, so that'd still be 3. You do that for each region, you add up the point scoring, you get 3 points for every remaining token, and that's your score. The tokens in the game, this token lets you take a tile from a factory and put it on any outer edge. You can't really see it well, but there's a little glimpse over here that gives you a bit more flexibility and freedom. This tile lets you take anything from the reserve and put it out, which is very helpful, especially as these displays start getting depleted. And this one lets you take an extra action, and this one simply lets you take 2 cards. Those are the 4 bonus tiles. Use them wisely because they're worth 3 points if you don't use them. And we get to the end of the game end is triggered by getting to the last factory tile, which is the one with a flag on it. The game does balance around the fact that you're going to have fewer tiles in play with less players, and once you get to the end of that, you'll go ahead, finish that round, and finish one more round, and see who has the most points in Neotopia. Which brings us to the review, starting off with ease of play. Game is incredibly easy to learn. It's a very short rule book, a few pages of the basic rules before you dive into a few other stuff, but like maybe 3 or 4 pages, not a lot going on. There's 2 actions, that's all you do. 2 actions, you take 3 actions a turn. Not a lot of complication going on as far as what you're trying to do in the game. Game runs around 30 minutes, a little fast. I say close to around the 45-minute range, possibly close to an hour at a full player count, but I think I'm skeptical it even gets to an hour. This game can move fast, and honestly, at 2 players who know the game well, you probably could knock this out at a half an hour pretty consistently. As far as what I like, don't like, and can see others not liking, starting off with what I like overall, the great components over here. These are like deluxified bits in any other game, and they're part of the game in this. I will say that these tokens did make me want the ability tokens to also be that premium, because like, why not once you have it? But it is what it is. I'll take what I can get. But the tokens over here, strong quality component aspect over there. The art's nice. I like the flavor of having the colors of the art present in each of these. So you can see over here, the colors are always the that you have in play. Blue and purple over here is that. We have red and greens, that wind tower over there. So I like that. The thematic aspect of building it out. But ultimately, at the end of the day, this is an abstract game, and it's very easy to teach the game and get up and running. It's a quick and clean game, and the ability to give you ways to try to find your pathway forward, to grab the cards, to build out your sequences, to work off what others are doing. It's just a fast tile laying game where you're trying to build in a shared space, and that is an enjoyable experience. But you also want to be mindful of building out across the regions. You want to be evenly balanced in the game because you get so many points for doing so, and that forces you to not just focus on a single area, but rather to diversify as you play, which is rewarding in and of itself as you go through it. And so overall, you're basically playing the same one-trick pony throughout the entire game of drawing cards, placing tiles down, but trying to find those opportunities to get a few more points, or to possibly focus on a region that's not as easy for you to get points, but it is your lowest scoring region. Trying to focus on the bonus tiles of when you want to accelerate up a region early to get a bunch of bonus tiles, and then shift to other regions and let the other players take those tiles, or to even get the tiles on the edge by placing out the pieces onto them and balancing the trade-off and when it's worth it, when it's not, and when you can combine that with cards. It's a very quick and clean game, but with enough decision space around what's happening that it is rewarding to do so. As far as what I don't like in the game, a few small things over here. I got multiple nitpicks, but they're all on the small side. First of all, that 3 times multiplier in the scoring does basically make it essential to be well balanced. This is not a game where you're going to do as well if you have 2 strong regions and a poorly scoring region. You kind of have to be well balanced, which I like the idea in general of games giving you that incentive to be well balanced. I personally prefer it when it's an incentive and not a must. When it's a must, I almost at that point just make it a must. I'm just make it that you only score your lowest region and call it a day. Don't give me the illusion of choice when in reality in this game, you have to focus on being as evenly distributed as possible because the multiplier is so strong. Also, the game is very much a one-trick pony. There's a limit of how much you can do here. There's only 2 actions, and so it's ultimately every single action for the next half an hour to an hour, depending on your player count, depending on how well you know the game. It involves you taking tiles, taking cards, putting them out, rinse and repeat until you run out of tiles. It's doing the exact same thing, very repetitive in the gameplay. It's not necessarily a bad thing, but it does limit how often you'll replay a game like this. Diving into it, playing the game is fun, but it does limit any potential replayability. I'll say that at 4 players, I don't love the game. I think this game shines at 3 and is very, very good at 2. The trade-off of a faster game at 2 makes it so that I'd have a hard time picking which player count I prefer, but 4 players, it just doesn't feel as natural. Just having 3 regions with a 4th player and the slowdown of the game, 4 players is not where the game is at for me. Again, 2 and 3, I'd have a hard time picking which one is better. They both have their strengths, but both are solid. 4 is doable. It's still fast enough at 4, but I'd play other 4-player games over this one. As far as what I can see others not liking, first of all, this is very much a game where you are setting people up for their wins. The very nature of the game, working in a shared space, means that as you play the game, you go ahead and you put down 2 tiles because you're working towards green. But then this guy over here, he grabs a card over here. Those tiles shouldn't have come from there. He grabs a 3rd tile, places it down there, and just builds off of all your hard work and scores 4 points. And that's part and parcel of what the game is. That's intrinsic to the very nature of this game, that you are building and other players will build off what you do. And so if you are finding that you are putting in a lot of the groundwork and other players are able to build off of what you did, that can feel frustrating. Now you can pivot, you can adjust, you can try to work as much as possible. Like as the game develops, the more often you're putting down 2 tiles to score a card versus putting down 1 tile to score a card, you do want to find that balance of trying to find the structures that others have created and have the hand of cards that is flexible. If you only have 1 card in your hand at all times, you're working towards that card. If you have a bunch of cards in your hand, you have more options as far as the flexibility of what you're trying to work for, which is a big part of the game experience. And so it can be frustrating, but you have to work around that strategically. As far as final thoughts on Neotopia, I like the game, but it is also very much a one-trick pony. There's only so much this game does well, which does put it against other similar games. For me, it's a 3.5 out of 5. I enjoy the game, but it didn't necessarily do as much as I would like to stand out in a crowded space full of games like this. There are lots of games that have tile laying, lots of games that have pattern building, and this one is good, it's quick, it's clean, it's a great gateway game, it's a great game, easy game to recommend. I had fun with it, and I do think you'll have fun with it as well. It just wouldn't necessarily be my first pick in the genre to recommend. Speaking of which, as far as other game recommendations, first of all, Azul. If you're looking for a quick, fast tile laying game with a shared pool of tiles, but your own individual player boards, Azul is a classic for a reason. It gives you a lot of gameplay. I personally prefer that game strongly at 2 players, but it is good at 3 and 4 as well. And then a game that feels more similar to me than this, more similar to Neotopia to me, is Mille Fiori. Mille Fiori from Devere Games is a game that also has that kind of shared space and building things out, but with like 5 different regions and 5 different scoring rules. It very much feels like it has elements of Neotopia into it, but with more complexity and variability to the regions, giving it more long-term life to the experience. Ultimately, I enjoy Neotopia. I like it, but it does cap out for me. In any case, until next time, I'm Alex Radcliffe from Board Game Co. I hope you enjoyed this video, and as always, I hope you have a good one.